guys, that last video was a lot of talking and blabbering away about who knows what, my views on poker in Las Vegas and stuff. Let's make this one a little bit more hand heavy. That's the plan anyway. We'll see if that actually pans out. But here we are at the South Point. 2-5 meetup game underway. All these tables populated by muggers. I got my meetup game t-shirt on here. I got my brand new favorable apparel baseball cap on. I'm gonna turn it around though. I'm gonna turn it around so you can see this face talking right at you guys. Okay, so yeah, we got 9 tables of 2-5 happening over here at the South Point. Couple hands real quick. Defended the Queen Jack offsuit in the big blind versus, I believe, a button open. Flop comes Queen 6, deuce, rainbow. Check call, bet of like $20. Turn 6, check, check, river, jack. I bet $60 and he folds. Later on he said pocket 8s, so I don't think there's any way to get any more money there. Next interesting one, there was an early position open at 15. Cutoff calls and we call with the 9-7 of diamonds on the button. Flop comes down 9-7-6 with a flush draw. Initial raiser bets $25, the cutoff folds, and I think we want to raise it up here. Flop is good for us, both actually and range-wise. I think I made $120 here to go on the flop, and my opponent calls pretty quickly. Turn is an offsuit queen, which is a pretty good card because there's so many cards that could change the dynamic of that board. But we should still be good here. Queen shouldn't really change anything. So when he checks it over to me, I bet again for $240. Thanks for a very long time here, asking me if I have a made hand or a big draw, something of the sort. And after a bunch of thinking, a bunch of tanking, he eventually folds pocket 10s face up. So he had a bunch of outs, a bunch of equity there still. Even though he folds a worse hand, that's still not the worst results in the world. He still had some equity, we could still lose, so just kind of shrug and drag in the chips in that one. Shortly after that, we found pocket 7s, whiff on that flop in a multi-way pot. Find King Jack offsuit, play it, but cost us a little bit of money. No connection there with that hand. We do connect with the Queen 10 offsuit. We end up making top pair with a Queen kicker, but on a 5-way pot, it is somehow no good versus pocket queens, a slow played pocket queens. So we bleed a little bit of money back there. It takes us down to back somewhere around even. And then shortly after that, still in the first table here at the meetup game, open up King 10 offsuit from under the gun, which is probably not the best open. Probably fold that one, but it's a meetup game. Widen my range a little bit just for fun, just for kicks. And once again, we see 4 colors, so a 5-way flop, which comes ace, queen, 5, rainbow. The big blind checks, and I go ahead and put out a C bet since pretty good board for my range here from under the gun. I bet $45. Only the big blind calls. Turn is a 4, I believe, 4 clubs, which brings it back to our flush draw. We still have some equity here with a gut shot, and we should still have a range advantage. He will have it. He will have top pair here sometimes, but I think when we apply some pressure, it's going to be tough for him to hang on with an ace without the best kicker in the world. So I'm gonna go ahead and fire again. This time $110, and he pretty quickly shows us king queen offsuit and folds. So had us in not great shape there, but we get the job done. Sorry about that, Josh. Had to put the bluff in there, and I was gonna fire a 3rd barrel, so tough to call down there. In your spot, would have done the same thing. All right, guys, I'm getting back in there, heading into table number 2. Plenty of action to be found in these meetup games. As I said, 9 tables on a Tuesday evening as the WSOP is coming to a close here in Las Vegas. All right, guys, moving on. We wrapped up the action over here on the second table. Have some hands to report to you guys here real quick. And this first one, the button straddle was on. There was a middle position limper before we looked down at Queen Jack of spades in the small blind. Could take the passive route, keep variance low and just limp in, but that's not really what we came to do here. So I raised it up to $50. The limper calls and the button calls. So 3 ways to a flop, which comes king high with a flush draw. And not just any flush draw, our flush draw. So pretty straightforward C-bet spot here. I go ahead and bet $80 and both players fold. So we just own them with queen high. I mean, we did flop a flush draw, so they kind of made it easy on us. This next hand, the LoJack player opens it up for $20. Cutoff calls, and I call with King Jack offsuit on the button. Not the best of hands. Could be some reverse implied odds, and not great playability being offsuit, but nobody likes a nit. So we're gonna get in there, and we're gonna go 3 ways to this flop, which comes jack high, all clubs. The initial raiser bets out for $35. Player on my right folds. Pretty straightforward call here. Turn is a brick, and the initial raiser bets again. this time to the tune of $80. Not really loving it, but there's a lot of combinations that he could have, such as ace king with ace high clubs, those types of hands with a high club in them that we are still ahead of, that he's barreling with. Not to mention some other pairs where he could be overvaluing them, and we actually have the best hand versus those hands as well. So gonna have to call one more street and see what happens here. River's an interesting one, is the king of clubs, so we end up with top 2 pair, but now 4 to a flush on the board. He checks it over to me. We have a bunch of showdown value here, so not gonna be turning this hand into a bluff. I go ahead and check it back, and he shows us ace queen off suit. So he was barreling there with a worse hand. Not even a club. He ends up making a straight on the river though. I mean, he did have some outs, I suppose. Not exactly sure what I would do on a total brick river there if he was to barrel again. But you know, who knows if he would have barreled again. Maybe we just check it back and win. This next hand is mostly uneventful, but sets up the hand after that. In this hand, there's a middle position open to 15. We look down at king 10 of diamonds. In position here, in late position, I think it's okay. Go ahead and put in a 3-bet. Pretty good playability when we do get called. So I may get $50, and the initial raiser does call. Bluff comes 5-3 deuce rainbow with 1 diamond. He checks it over to us. We're gonna go ahead and c-bet here, barrel on some turns, such as diamonds, maybe an ace, maybe not, maybe just check it back, but look to do some things on later streets sometimes. So I go ahead and bet $60 after he checks it over to us, and all that is for naught. He goes ahead and folds. So in this next hand, it is against the same player that we just 3-bet in the previous hand. He opens this one for $20, and this time we look down at pocket aces, best hand on the entire planet. So we go ahead and put in a standard 3-bet to $60, and again, he makes the call. Bluff comes queen 5-3 with 2 hearts and 1 club. Checks it over to us. Always c-betting here. Go ahead and make it $75, and he calls. Turn is the 6 of clubs, which doesn't complete any obvious straight draws. Does make the board more connected, and it does add a second flush draw. So when he checks it to us, don't think we just want to give any free cards here. Just gonna go ahead, keep betting, keep charging lots of hands that are already made but are worse than ours, and drawing hands as well. So we go ahead and bet it here. I bet $205 this time. Interesting spot where he puts in a very small raise. He makes it like $430 or something around that number. I think I have about $900 total here, so there's definitely some concern that we're beat here. Normally a check raise, and a small one at that. You know, I imagine sometimes where he picks up some decent equity with a combo draw, like a pair plus draw, pair plus straight draw plus flush draw. Maybe he just check raises all in that spot. You out? All right, buddy. Maybe he just check raises all in that spot. A lot of times the smaller raise can look stronger than a bigger raise. But we have pocket aces here, and it's damn near the top of our range in a 3-bet pot, aside from maybe pocket queens on this board. It's gonna be way too strong to just go ahead and give up, especially with recent history where we had just 3-bet him and it didn't go to showdown, and this is very soon after that in a very similar spot. So maybe he's sick of it, maybe he has the goods, or maybe he has a hand that he's overvaluing. But anyway, all that leads up to us not folding. So we go ahead and jam it in.
They killed off all the parents, all in. What Disney does.
And we do not get snap called. So anytime you fade the snap call with 1 pair, it's always a good sign. Thinks about it for quite a long time, but he does eventually decide on a call.
Oh.
Okay, we got 1 pair. So we're gonna see a river card here. I go ahead and show what he's up against. I assume we have the best hand after he thinks about it for that long. River is an offsuit 3, so pairs the board pretty quickly after that, mucks his hand. So pretty big pot here, the biggest one so far, probably about a $2,000 pot, which puts us up about $1,000. So good second table there here at the meetup game. Found some run good with the pocket aces, and they actually hold up. Shortly after that, the last hand of note on this table, we find ace king, a premium hand in a double board bomb pot, in which the double boards are total trash. So we don't get any further than the flops, the 2 flops. But always fun to see 2 flops anyway. Those double board bomb pots, can't get enough of them. All right, moving on to table 3 now. Okay guys, I have actually called it a night, racked it up. Going to head over to the bar here shortly, as is protocol here for the meetup games, but one major hand to report. Get it on record here. It's a crazy one, and I have no choice but to report it to you guys. So we looked down at king-3 of clubs from under the gun, and we raised it up to $15 because it's a meetup game, okay? There's no other reason other than because it's a meetup game. We see 4 callers, probably assumedly because it's a meetup game. So we are going 5 ways to a flop, which comes Jack 10-3, Rainbow, 1 club, bottom pair for us. Some future street possibilities, but we have ourselves bottom pair here and don't expect to win too often. So that combination of factors leads me to a bet of $45 here on the flop. Can potentially do some things on later streets, as mentioned. Maybe by some miracle we can pick it up here on the flop, but don't think that's going to happen too often. Leaves some possibilities for the turn in the river, though. We get a call from the under the gun +1 position, and all the other players fold. So all things considered, only one opponent here on this board. Not too shabby of a situation. The turn card is, without directly improving our hand, probably the nut card. It's the queen of clubs. So we are now open-ended plus a flush draw here. Definitely cannot just give up here on this card. We have ace-king in our range, I think more than our opponents, maybe? Although I'm not sure we would be betting ace-king on this flop. So it's 50-50. We do not get 3-bet. Granted, I don't know how often he would 3-bet from that spot versus under the gun open. We have a king though. We have lots of equity. Time to start representing that ace-king. So I'm gonna go ahead and bet here. I bet right around full pot on the turn. My opponent thinks for a little while and then he calls. So we're looking for some help here on the river. We got Brado and over our shoulder capturing some of the footage here and capturing the action. The river does not bring the help that we need. So it's all up to us. My opponent has somewhere in the range of $400 to $500 in his stack at this point. We're gonna have to be a hero here. We're gonna try our damnedest at least. It's a meetup game. If we go down in flames, so be it. We're gonna go for the maximum and go ahead and rip it all in. My opponent goes deep into the tank, and we're sweating a little bit here because we're up about, you know, $900 or $1,000 at this point, and to just dust it off at one of the last tables of the night here, at the tail end of the night, with a ridiculous open pre-flop and then barrel it off with bottom pair, it would kind of suck. Not gonna lie, but after thinking about it for some time, quite some time, my opponent goes ahead and folds. So we get the job done here with the king-3 clubs. I let them know you can see 1 card because either one of those cards, it's not gonna look like a bluff. They picked the 3 of clubs, so that is definitely the bluffy one, the one that looks more bluffy. So we get that one through. We lose a couple hands later on. We don't. Our stack doesn't actually change too much as a result of, really, the big hand was the pocket aces hand. We managed to get this bluff through, lose a couple hands later on, win a couple hands, just some small back and forth. Get into the game for $1,000, cash out of the game for $1,934. I'm gonna go over to the spot, which has become the hangout after the meetup games. You go over to the bar/lounge right outside the poker room and go see who's hanging out over there and watch the final 2, see who becomes the next World Series of Poker main event champion.